Kim tasya durlabhataram ihaloke paratracha yasya vipra prasidanti Shiva Vishnushcha Sanuga Kim tasya durlabhataram ihaloke paratracha yasya vipra prasidanti Shiva Vishnushcha Sanuga Kim tasya durlabhataram ihaloke paratracha yasya vipra prasidanti Shiva Vishnushcha Sanuga. Okay, please chant.
Kim tasya durlabhataram
Kim tasya durlabhataram
ihaloke paratracha
ihaloke paratracha
yasya vipra prasidanti Shiva Vishnushcha sanugaha
Shiva Vishnushcha Sanuga
Kim tasya durlabhataram
Kim tasya durlabhataram
ihaloke paratracha
ihaloke paratracha yasya vipra prasidanti Shiva Vishnushcha Sanuga
Kim tasya durlabhataram
Kim tasya durlabhataram
ihaloke paratracha
ihaloke paratracha yasya vipra prasidanti Shiva Vishnushcha Sanuga Kim tasya durlabhataram ihaloke paratracha yasya vipra prasidanti Shiva Vishnushcha Sanuga. Anyone else? All right. Kim tasya durlabhataram ihaloke paratracha yasya vipra prasidanti Shiva Vishnushcha Sanuga. All right, word for word. Okay. All right, Kim. What? Tasya. His. Durlabhataram. Very rare to achieve. Iha. In this world. Loke. World. Paratra. After death. Cha. Or. Yasya. One whose. Vipra. The Brahmanas and the Vaishnavas. Prasidanti. Become pleased. Shiva. All auspicious. Vishnu. Lord Vishnu. Cha. As well as. Sa anuga. Going along with. Translation. Any person upon whom the Brahmanas and the Vaishnavas are pleased can achieve anything which is very rare to obtain in this world as well as after death. Not only that, but one also receives the favor of the auspicious Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu, who accompany the Brahmanas and the Vaishnavas. Please repeat. Any person upon whom the Brahmanas
Any person among the Brahmanas
and Vaishnavas
and Vaishnavas
are pleased,
are pleased,
can achieve anything which is very rare
can achieve anything which is very rare
to obtain in this world,
to attain in this world,
as well as after death.
as well as after death.
Not only that,
Not only that,
but one also receives
one also receives
the favor of the auspicious Lord Shiva
the favor of the auspicious
and Lord Vishnu,
the Lord Vishnu,
who accompany the Brahmanas and the Vaishnavas.
who come to be the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas.
Purport. The Brahmanas and Vaishnavas are the bearers of Lord Vishnu, the all-auspicious, as confirmed in the Brahma Samhita. Ramanjanachrit Rita Bhakti. Wait, go ahead. What's the meter again? Jajmurtita Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sadaiva Hridayeshu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam Govinda Maripurusham Tamaham Bhajami. The devotees, out of their extreme love for Govinda, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, always carry the Lord within their hearts. The Lord is already in the heart of everyone, but the Vaishnavas and the Brahmanas actually perceive and see him always in ecstasy. Therefore, Brahmanas and Vaishnavas are carriers of Vishnu. Wherever they go, Lord Vishnu, Lord Shiva, or the devotees of Lord Vishnu are all carried. The four Kumaras are Brahmanas, and they visited the place of Maharaj Prithu. Naturally, Lord Vishnu and his devotees were also present. Under the circumstances, the conclusion is that when the Brahmanas and the Vaishnavas are pleased with the person, Lord Vishnu is also pleased. This is confirmed by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his 8 stanzas on the spiritual master, Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasada. By pleasing the spiritual master, who is both Brahmana and Vaishnava, one pleases the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pleased, then one has nothing more to achieve either in this world or after death. Om Gyana Tamrandasya Gyana Jana Shalakaya Chakshoran Militam Yena Tajmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamayam Darati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagratatam Sahagana Raghunathan Tam Sajivam Savadetam Savadutam Parajana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Tamscha E Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabando Jikapate Gopesha Gope Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrinda Vaneshwari Rishabhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpa Thurubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay. All right, so this verse is talking about how Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, when they're pleased, any person who pleases them, they can achieve anything which is very rare to obtain in this world. So I'm going to start this off with a question like, who can tell me some things that are something that's rare, like anything that's rare? Yeah. What is it? Diamonds. Okay, yeah. It's debatable. Some people say like, De Beers took over the market and artificially hoarding them. But yes, diamonds is good. Anyone else? Gulabjamins? Oh, yes, much rarer than I want them to be. Yes. Pure devotional service. Very good. Anyone else? Yes.
Hen's teeth.
Teeth?
Hen's teeth.
Hen's teeth. Okay. All right.
Turkey teeth.
Turkey teeth. All right. All right. Well, that I'm not sure if that's going to follow with my next point, but okay. All right. Huh? Love. Yeah. Okay. And so what do all those things have in common? Although I'm not sure about hen's teeth or turkey teeth. Does anybody know? Yeah, they're rare. But what else? Anybody know? Hard to obtain, yeah. And they're also very valuable. All those things are very valuable in some way. I'm not sure what the value of a hen's tooth is, but probably up there, because the most valuable things are rare things. So I looked up some of the most valuable things, money-wise, in our world right now. One of the things is like the space station, right? That cost $150 billion. $150 billion. This was interesting. This would be very hard to obtain, very expensive. So if you could get 1 gram of antimatter, okay, 1 gram of antimatter, that would cost between $62.5 to $100 trillion, right? And that's because it's very rare, right? It's hard to obtain. And then like blue diamonds, natural blue diamonds, those go for about $4 million for 1 carat. So those are all very rare items. Let's hear some stuff from some beautiful slokas from the Bhagavad Gita. So in chapter 7, Krishna says, out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection. And of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. So out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection. And then out of those rare men, those who have achieved perfection, hardly anyone knows Krishna in truth, right? So that's pretty rare. Later in chapter 7, this is text 16 through 19, I'm going to read. O best among the Bhartas, 4 kinds of pious men begin to render devotional service unto me: the distressed, the desire of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge of the absolute. Of these, the one who is in full knowledge and who is always engaged in pure devotional service is the best, for I am very dear to him, and he is dear to me. So there you go. That's what was mentioned here, pure devotional service being rare. All the devotees are undoubtedly magnanimous souls, but he who is situated in knowledge of me, I consider to be just like my own self. Being engaged in my transcendental service, he is sure to attain me, the highest and most perfect goal. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. So those souls that have dedicated their lives to the service of Lord Krishna, those are very rare. And what's interesting is how the verse says that any person upon whom the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas are pleased can achieve anything which is very rare to obtain in this world. So we see examples of this. Well, first, let me say that the spiritual master is also very rare and valuable. So we know this, the spiritual master has dedicated his life to the service of Krishna and sharing that with others. And the spiritual master is not a regular person. So I have a few quotes here too. One should know the acharya as myself. This is yes, one should know the acharya or the spiritual master as myself and never disrespect him in any way. One should not envy him, thinking him to be an ordinary man, for he is the representative of all the demigods. And let's see here. According to the deliberate opinion of all revealed scriptures, the spiritual master is non-different from Krishna. Lord Krishna, in the form of the spiritual master, delivers his devotees. So there we see how the spiritual master himself is also very rare. And it's our good fortune to be able to associate with the spiritual master and to take advantage of this rare and valuable opportunity that we have. So we can actually see how pleasing the spiritual master can allow you to achieve amazing and almost impossible things. Srila Prabhupada is a great example of this. He, trying to please his spiritual master, who gave him the instruction to preach in the West in English. And so many of his godbrothers had tried to do this before, and they didn't do so well. And they came back, somewhat defeated a little bit. And Srila Prabhupada wanted to please his spiritual master and also Krishna. And so he came, we all know the story, he came at a very advanced age and was able to establish 108 temples worldwide, which is now grown to be around 1,000 temples, might be a little more, might be a little less. It was hard for me to pin down an exact number because there's so many coming up. But that is something that is very rare. He was able to do that at an age where most people are retiring and playing golf, or maybe just taking up knitting or something, or gardening, and instead he was gardening souls. He was helping us grow our little bhakti creepers in our hearts, so that we can in turn please Srila Prabhupada, which will in turn please his spiritual master, which will in turn please Krishna. So, so this is something that is very rarely achieved. So how can we please our spiritual master? Who knows? Does anybody have an idea? Yeah.
Chant sincere round.
Yeah, chant sincere round. Very good. Yeah.
Sincerely doing devotional service.
Sincerely doing devotional service. Yeah. Kirtaneshwara.
Yeah, mission of the spiritual master. And the mood.
Taking on what was the first
The
one?
mood and mission of the spiritual
Mood and
master.
mission of the spiritual master. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Those are all great answers. And it's really simple in a way. It's, you want to follow the directions of your spiritual master. And all of that is included. So let's see here. I have some quotes about serving the Vaishnavas. When one serves a Vaishnava unknowingly, one still gets the good result. And if one unknowingly insults a Vaishnava, one suffers the bad result. A Vaishnava is especially favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Pleasing him or displeasing him directly affects the pleasure and displeasure of the Supreme Lord. So that seems pretty amazing, that if we want to be able to obtain and achieve things that are very rare, and we need to please our spiritual masters and please the Vaishnavas, the other devotees. But that one line there said, if one unknowingly insults a Vaishnava, one suffers the bad result. So we have to be careful about offenses. Here's a little quote from the introduction to the Srimad Bhagavatam. The beloved devotee of the Lord can favor a neophyte more liberally than the Lord. Pure devotees, therefore, never commit an offense at the feet of another pure devotee. An offense at the lotus feet of the Lord is sometimes excused by the merciful Lord, but an offense at the feet of a devotee who is very dangerous for one who actually wants to make progress in devotional service. So that kind of made me think about, if somebody could insult me, and call me names, it wouldn't really bother me that much, maybe depending on who the person was. But but if someone insulted my little sister, and called her names, I'd be ready to fight right then and there, right? And that's because, okay, it's one thing you insult me, it's fine, but you insult someone I love and I care about, oh man, all bets are off there. We're going to be fighting. In fact, like the one and only fight I got into in my entire life was over that exact scenario. It was a girl was picking on my sister, and I didn't do the fight ended up being a draw. So so I didn't lose, but I didn't win either. Anyway. because I didn't want anybody picking on my little sister. And just like that, Krishna doesn't want anybody picking on his devotees, right? And so we want to be very careful to not commit offenses. And if we do, it can really stunt our devotional creeper. It can really stunt our progress in spiritual life. And we don't want that to happen. So please be careful to not make offenses. And the best way to do that is to just be respectful and kind to everybody. You don't have to like everybody, but you don't have to, tell everybody, hey, I don't like you, or what you did, you did that wrong, or you were being a real jerk. You don't have to do that. You can just, stay away and be respectful. So another example of being able to achieve rare things is our own Mother Sindhamani, right? She has made this place so beautiful for all of us, and made this beautiful community so everybody in Tucson has an opportunity to come and hear about Krishna and to further their spiritual life. And again, a lot of people, a lot of women her age would be, knitting booties, or I don't know, probably not booties because they're not going to have any babies, maybe for their grandkids or something. And maybe baking cookies for their grandkids or something like that. But certainly, playing bridge. Yeah, there you go. Doing that kind of stuff. Oh yeah, my ex-mother-in-law used to love to play bingo. She was just crazy about bingo. She played bingo all the time. And instead, no, we see Mother Sindhamani getting up every single day at like 2 a.m. and chanting her rounds and cooking for everybody here, cleaning things that I didn't even know that needed to be cleaned, and making sure that everything goes smoothly here so that we can help share Krishna with everybody here in Tucson. And so that's really amazing. I mean, I know my own father was younger than her and he passed away, so let alone running around like with more energy than Kirtaneshwar here, which is pretty amazing. Yeah, right? Because he's in his 20s. So, and so without this rare ability of Mother Sindhamani to do this, none of us would even be here right now. I don't know where we'd be, but it wouldn't be here. So, all right. So now I want to change gears a little bit, and since it's Easter, I wanted to talk a little bit about Jesus and how his life is very similar to Haridas Thakur. So I wanted to talk about both Haridas Thakur and Jesus a little bit. So most of us know about Lord Jesus Christ, but maybe not all of us. I don't know. I'm going to tell a little bit about Jesus and then a little bit about Haridas Thakur and go back and forth between their two stories. So Jesus, he was born about 2,000 years ago in Nazareth. And did you say something? Okay. So Jesus, he was the Son of God, and he came to teach how to love God and one another. And he was a devotee of God, or Krishna, right? So Haridas Thakur, he was born in 1450 in, do you remember where he was born? In East Bengal. Yeah, I know it's in East Bengal. I don't know specifically. Yeah, so, and he was born in a Muslim family, and he converted to Vaishnavism, and he was a great devotee of Krishna, or God, and he chanted 192 rounds out loud every day, devotees as Haridas, and the demigods desire to touch the transcendental body of Haridas. One will be promoted to Krishna's abode. So let's all say it. Haridas. Yeah, Jai. So that's from the Chaitanya Bhagavat. All right. So, all right, so a little more about Jesus. So Jesus, he upset the Pharisees, which were the religious leaders in Jerusalem, the religious leaders of the Jews in Jerusalem, and by challenging them and their corrupt ways. Some of the things they were doing was having in the Bible, I think they call it like money changers in the temple, but basically they were having merchants in the temple, and they were making a little profit from this. And this upset Jesus. It was not part of the teachings as he understood them. And he went in the temple and he kind of just overturned all the merchants' tables and caused a big ruckus. And so this upset the Pharisees, who were the leaders at the time. So Herod the court, he also upset a few people. So he upset a Smarta Brahmin one day, who told him he should be chanting silently in his mind and not out loud, because as I had said before, he would chant his 192 rounds loudly, out loud. So this had bothered this Brahmana, and he told him, you should be chanting silently in your mind. And Haridas Thakur quoted scriptures to defeat his argument. And the Brahmana, he was pretty upset by this. Also, the townspeople, the general other Vaishnavas and things, they really relished his company and his devotion and his worship of the holy name. And he became very popular and very revered. And this upset the Muslim Qazi, the ruler in Navadvip, which is West Bengal. So Jesus, after upsetting the Pharisees, they wanted Jesus put to death. So the Pharisees, they were under the rule of the Romans at that time, and they were not able to legally put anybody to death themselves. So they appealed to the Romans so they could have Jesus put to death. And the Romans, the governor, Pontius Pilate, he didn't find any fault in Jesus, and he said, no, we're not going to put him to death, just whip him, just whip him really good, just beat him. And so the Pharisees took control of Jesus, and they did. They whipped him, but they whipped him so bad that his flesh, as it says, hung in ribbons. So that's pretty bad. And the Pharisees, they were still unsatisfied. So they went back to the Romans, and they appealed again to have Jesus put to death. Pontius Pilate, who was the governor, he didn't want any part of this saintly person's death, but he was under pressure from the higher-ups in the Roman government to maintain the peace at all costs. So he washed his hands of Jesus's fate, which is where we get that expression from. He washed his hands to symbolize that he had nothing to do with this, although he sort of did. And he let the Pharisees carry on as they wished, because he wanted to keep the peace. So then Jesus was crucified. He was hung on a cross to die. So Haridas Thakur, he lived under Muslim rule, and a Muslim converting to Hinduism was punishable by death. The Qazi told him to give up his chanting and his belief or die. And Haridas said, the Supreme Lord is one through his names, though his names might be different. The Hindu Shastras are the Puranas, and the Muslim Shastra is the Quran. Everyone acts as he is inspired by the Lord, as also do I. Some Yavanas become Hindus, and some Hindus become Yavanas. To worship the Lord, O Maharaj, you can now judge me. So the Qazi again told him to give up this chanting or die. Just follow your own religion, he said. He wanted him to become a Muslim again. Haridas said, even if you cut my body into pieces, I will never give up the chanting of Harinam, the holy name. So the Qazi sentenced him to be whipped in 22 different marketplaces until he died. So now Jesus, he's on the cross. He's been crucified, And while he was on the cross, Jesus prayed for the souls and the forgiveness of his tormentors. He said very famously, "Forgive them, Father, they know not what they do." He also made more devotees, in particular the criminal that was next to him on the cross, on another cross. He became a devotee of Jesus and the Lord God. So Jesus then chose to leave his body and died at will. It usually would take days and days for someone to die from crucifixion. It was a very gruesome death. You would just hang there for days and days. And a lot of times you would end up dying from like dehydration or suffocation from your own bodily fluids filling your lungs. But Jesus died in a matter of hours because he was able to just at will give his body up. So 3 days after that, he rose from the dead. And that's what Easter is, celebrating that he rose from the dead 3 days later. So Haridas Thakur, he's now being beaten in 22 different marketplaces, but he's supposed to be beaten to death. So Haridas Thakur, he didn't feel pain or die from the beatings, and this was astonishing to his tormentors and the bystanders. He also prayed for the forgiveness and gave forgiveness to his tormentors. His tormentors actually were distressed because he wasn't dying. And knowing that they were very distressed, knowing that they themselves would be punished severely for not carrying out the orders of the Qazi. So when Haridas Thakur found this out, he didn't want to cause distress to his tormentors. And he said, "Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I will die." And he actually, at will, gave up his body then at that time. And so, by all appearances, he was dead. But really, he was in a very deep trance, meditative state called samadhi, and no breath, no warmth. They were going to bury him, but the Qazi, he said no, he doesn't deserve to be buried. You know, that was something that the Muslims would do. And he said, no, he doesn't deserve to be buried. Just throw him in the river. So they threw him in the Ganges River. And sometime later, he rose from the dead further down the river and climbed out of the river and started chanting again. And some Muslims who saw him and realized he was a holy man and begged his forgiveness, and they were forgiven. So what is the point of me saying comparing these two stories, besides the fact that it's Easter? Like, what are the things that we can learn from this? So I think the main thing that you can really take from both of these stories is to never stop serving the Lord in any circumstance. And in particular with Haridas Thakur's story, is never stop chanting. I mean, he was willing to die in order to keep chanting the holy name. And the other thing you can learn from this is to cultivate humility, as seen in these stories. I mean, the humility of being able to forgive the people that are tormenting you is really amazing. So I have some really nice quotes about humility. So this is from a conversation Srila Prabhupada had with one of his disciples. His disciple had asked him about humility, and Srila Prabhupada said, "Humility means you are convinced beyond any doubt that there is nothing in this world, absolutely nothing in this world, not your money, not your family, not your fame, not your gun, not your education, nothing that will save you except the mercy of Krishna. When you are convinced like this, then you are humble." And of course, we all know this famous verse: "One who thinks himself lower than the grass, who is more tolerant than a tree, and who does not expect personal honor, yet is always prepared to give all respect to others, can very easily always chant the holy name of the Lord." And one more quote. This is also from Srila Prabhupada. My Guru Maharaj used to say, don't try to see God. You work in such a way that God will see you. God will take care of you. Don't try to see God. This is the process. I want to see God. Oh God, please come and stand before me. Oh, just like that, he's my servant. God is no one's servant. You have to oblige him by your love, by your service. That is the process. So having that true humility and being able to understand that people, to forgive those that are hurting you, and also realize that forgiveness isn't necessarily for the other person. Like forgiveness is like 99% for yourself. You know, to allow yourself to move on and not hold on to those bad feelings. You know, it's like 1% for the other person and 99% for yourself. So you can move on and not let this just get you entangled. So I see so many people that have such a hard time with this, and they're stuck. They're completely stuck in these traumas that they have. People have hurt them, and it's ruining their life. They're traumatizing themselves by not forgiving this person that has hurt them. So we should try to cultivate that humility that would allow us to be forgiving someone who is literally killing us, and say, oh, I'm sorry, you need me to die. Okay, let me die. I don't know if I certainly don't have that ability, but if we could try to cultivate that mood, that will get us pretty far, I think. So with that being said, is there any questions? We're going to end here. Yes, Mother Tsunami.
Sometimes we hear stories like this, not quite as extreme maybe, but dying, but, then we're thinking, we're listening, we're thinking, well, I could do that. I could probably do that. But then in reality, someone steps on our heel or something and we become so irate, or someone borrows something and doesn't. Kuman was opening a can of beans and I'm like, those are my beans. Where'd you get those beans? What are you going to use those beans for? And he was like, he was like afraid, for the doll, and I said, I need one of those beans. And and he said, no, there's one more beans left. And I was thinking, it's a good thing. Yeah. There's one more can left. So, even though in our mind we can dream that we're humbler than the blade of grass, but really when it comes to any little small thing, we get immediately we get agitated. So, this is a nice class to help us remember to really cultivate those, because, just like we have a lot of land next door, but plants don't just grow, it has to be cultivated. What does that mean? It means you have to put the soil, you got to till it, you got to put the plants in, you got to water it. So, cultivating means you really have to, embrace these qualities that we want to have and really work on it, and not just passively think, oh, it's just going to automatically sprout from my heart, unless one is really sincerely trying to, chant purely and develop really close, sweet, non-offensive relationships with the devotees and everyone, really.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah, and I always think about that saying, like they tell you about when you're looking for a job, dress for the job you want, right? Like, if you try to do the same thing with, like, okay, yes, I want to be a more tolerant and forgiving person. Well, you have to work at it, like you were saying. But sometimes, I might be thinking like, oh man, like, I can't believe you took my beans. What about that? But externally, I will do my best to not be like, hey, what are you doing with those beans? Hello? Because ultimately, eventually, you'll change that pattern. That pattern of that thinking. It might take a while, but it might not. So just for the job you want. And so, is there any other questions? No, we do not have steak. Chandrika.
it's like if there is somebody that we don't like, or we feel that, they did something, or usually it's bringing something to the surface of yourself. It triggers something in you, and it's easy to keep away, but true forgiveness is to understand what that message was, what were they showing you, and then somehow try to uplift the situation. Like, you don't have to be best friends, but still still connect somehow, even if it's like, hey, you look nice today, or whatever it is. So it's always good to feel that forgiveness where we've really connected with the person again, even in a subtle way, because otherwise somehow we're still holding on. It's like, I'm going to ignore you, and there's still something there if you do that. So I think it's good. I mean, even if it's somebody like from a different religion outside, and they see you, and kind of had a similar situation. We saw somebody that was like a church bishop, and kind of dressed as a devotee, and there was, so it's like, oh, and then he had his grandbaby. So I'm like, oh, what a cute baby. And then we kind of started talking that way. So instead of feeling like, oh, there's some division there. So it's always good to find ways to have less division and more togetherness, whether it's an individual person or groups, etc.
Yeah, I kind of got to practice that a little bit last night. There was a really mean customer that came in, and she was just being really, really mean, and then I kind of got irritated, and I was sort of being like mean back, and we were both mean, and it was not good. And so then I thought we got it under control, but then she came back to get more food, and then she was being mean again. So I thought, and while she was eating, I was thinking maybe I'll just give her a piece of cake, and then it'll be nice, and she came back to fill her plate, and then she started being mean again, and so then I was just like, look, and here I was thinking I was going to give you a piece of cake, but I don't think I'm going to do that now. And then she was like, look, I'm sorry, I was just really hungry, and I'm going through a lot, I'm having a bad time. And I said, all right. I said, well, look, why don't I just give you this cake, and then we just kind of forget all this happened, and it'd be nice, And then she ended up actually being really, she ended up kind of crying a little bit and telling me about her troubles, and I gave her a hug and gave her the cake, and then she took a book too. So
There you go.
So.
When you see her next time.
Yeah. Here's an Ishwar.
Thank you for the nice talk. It's always nice to hear about Haridas, Thakur, and Lord Jesus Christ. As Prabhupada said, that the real test of a saintly person is his forgiveness. So how you forgive, how you're able to let go of something, that's your test of a saintly person. I just feel like, like Christianity is a lot not so the Christians don't understand Christianity a lot of the time. The guy goes right over their head. And I was talking to one devotee in Hawaii, who was raised seriously devout Catholic. And I was also raised Catholic, so we kind of connected. And, like he's saying, the whole, everything they do is so similar in the Catholic Church. They offer incense, they ring the bell, they raise the, prasad up, they offer the prasad, they say prayers, then they all, joyously take prasad. They, actually, Catholic Church, they focus on chanting God's name in the more ancient Catholic Church. And so it's so similar. Everything is so similar, but it goes right over their head because they don't understand who Jesus was. And that's the big issue, is that because they make Jesus God, is not understood so clearly. But Jesus, like the whole idea that he died because he was preaching, that's kind of what they don't understand. It's not that he just died, came and just died and like committed suicide for you and now you're free of sins. No, he died for you because he sacrificed his life. Just like any great devotee, they're sacrificing their lives to preach God consciousness. And, he died to give that message and didn't ever stop speaking that message and live that message. So we can, by taking that message up, by surrendering to the message of Jesus, one is relieved of so much karma, so many sins. And you hear like the Sermon on the Mount, that's that's everything we teach, every single phrase is everything we teach, And one of the things is that, those who are pure-hearted, they're the only people who can see God. The meek will inherit the earth. So many different things that we just hear classic Vaishnav, philosophy. So, yeah. But the whole thing, Catholic Church, the whole big, most epic central part of their whole practice is the prasad. But they have no idea what's going on. They're just like totally under this kind of what? Well, depending on what age you're in, not now, but generally in the past. But actually, you think about that. I was thinking about that. I talked with that about him too. It's interesting because when Lord Chaitanya went to the Qazi, Lord Chaitanya said, the Qazi said, "Why are you doing this? This is, so wrong." And then Lord Chaitanya said, "Why are you eating meat?" And, Lord Chaitanya chastised him. And he said, "Our scriptures allow it." And so Lord Chaitanya, he conceded and said, "Yes, your scriptures allow it. Continue on. But our scriptures are injuncting us to chant the holy name. Therefore, leave us alone." So it's a lower thing. It's not by any means higher. Of course, the Orthodox Christians and the monks, they're vegetarian. Mm-hmm. All the monks generally all the monks from that tradition are vegetarian. But anyhow, it's very, it's very, very nice that they, the whole tradition has so much knowledge, but it's kind of like lost. It's lost.
Yeah.
But there's actually a lot to be learned there. I find that, I learn a lot, like, I hear, like, I remember all the things I learned as a kid growing up about Jesus, and, it sticks with me so deeply, that how to become forgiving and loving and mm-hmm. truthful and honest, and, always have faith in God's mercy. And so, yeah. Try Jesus, Dave.
And I always say this, I've never really met anybody that says, "Man, that Jesus was a jerk." No, most people that have issues with Christianity is with people not actually following what Jesus taught. So I really haven't met a single person that had a problem with what he actually taught. So,
yeah, I always say that to people too, who want to, like, it's like if you just took one day of your life and tried to live like Jesus, and your life didn't get better, it's impossible, because Jesus was devoted, his whole main teaching, was to love God with thy heart, mind, and soul, and love thy neighbor like thyself, Mm-hmm. So, but then, later things, if you just take the Gospels, that's really nice. But then the Paul stuff, it's when it starts getting kind of like all the stuff Paul said, it kind of gets into the weird zone.
Yeah. All right, I think Omar had something. Did you still have something, Omar? Or did you forget?
I kind of had a question. I kind of forgot it, but yeah, I was just thinking. So, like, if someone stole your beans and you're like angry, and wouldn't it be more truthful to actually express what you're feeling versus, like, it seems kind of like you're like lying if you're like, okay, I'm not actually angry, I'm gonna pretend like I'm not angry. You stole my beans, I'm gonna pretend to be friendly, but you're actually like have that like resentment that's like building inside you.
Yeah,
So it seems
you don't have to like pretend to not be angry. You're allowed to have your emotions and stuff like that, but you don't want to be like, hey, you're an A, for touching my beads. You could say nicely, look, that's very upsetting that you threw my beads or stole them or whatever. But yeah, you don't have to make insults or anything like that. Just kind of I would say use common sense and be an adult about it. But as we can see from our culture, that's not very common anymore to how to have a discussion about unpleasant feelings without insulting somebody and without hurting someone. Now, of course, someone might be upset anyway. Like I've noticed sometimes people get upset when it's pointed out, like, hey, that hurt, that you stepped on my foot, that hurt, and then they're upset. But Srila Prabhupada says, to call a thief is not, there's nothing wrong with that. So, yeah.
I was going to say that regarding the vegetarian thing, the very first page of the Bible The very first page of the Bible says to be a vegetarian. You open the Bible and you read the first page.
Yeah, Genesis.
First thing says God gave
Give us-
the green things and the fruits of this earth for those to eat. Didn't say he gave the animals. So, it's right there in the script, in the Christian scriptures. They just aren't aware of it. But
Because it says God gives us dominion over the animals, and people seem to think that means eat, but dominion means to take care of, not eat.
and Raj Omar's question is that like anger is not innately bad. It depends on what you're angry about too. Like Prabhupada said, and that, become angry in Krishna's service for Krishna, like Arjuna was getting angry, that's bona fide. Like you saw Jesus, he became furious when he went into the temple and he saw that they were, hypocrites, and he was throwing the tables around. So, if you do have that, it's not that it says we shouldn't become angry. It says that we should tolerate. That we're tolerating. So if the anger is taking us away from our service, that's the challenge, that if because I'm getting angry, I'm getting in the mode of passion, and now I'm getting all these, bad things, that's the problem. But if someone takes your bees, that's also devotional. But Krishna says that generally anger comes from unfulfilled desire, that because you have lust in your heart and your lust isn't fulfilled, therefore frustration and anger arises.
Mhm.
So that being humble part is if you're humble and someone disrespects you, you don't really get angry because, I don't have that desire for respect.
Yeah, and that's important to examine the motivations of your anger. Like if you're angry at Kirtan because he's talking to some girl that you like or something, and that's really the only reason. Then that's a little different than being angry at someone because they took your beads or something like that. All right, I think it's past 9 already, so we're going to end here. Srimad Bhagavatam Gita.